Have you ever met someone and thought you knew all about them just by how they looked? Our little hero in The Mouse Who Judged by Looks is about to learn that lesson the hard way.
Deep within a quiet, cozy corner of the barn lived a tiny little mouse who dreamt of grand adventures. He had never once peeked outside his soft, warm nest. But oh, how his whiskers twitched with curiosity. Every day, he heard exciting sounds filtering in, making his tiny heart long for the world beyond. Today, he felt brave enough to finally see what marvels lay just outside his tiny door. With a deep breath, he decided it was time to explore. Taking a timid step, the little mouse squeezed through a tiny crack, his small paws gripping the rough wood. The world exploded into vibrant colors and bustling activity he'd only imagined. The air smelled earthy and fresh, completely different from his snug little home. His big black eyes darted everywhere, trying to take in every amazing detail of the enormous barnyard. He felt a thrill of excitement, mixed with a tiny flutter of fear. He tiptoed past tall stalks of hay that seemed like enormous trees, and past shiny pebbles that were bigger than his whole body. The barnyard was bursting with new sights and sounds, far grander than any adventure book could describe. Little Mouse felt like a tiny explorer in a giant, wonderful land. He imagined all the friendly farm animals he might meet, his tail wagging slightly with anticipation. What a marvelous place this was! As he carefully rounded a large wooden water barrel, a sudden flash of brilliant color caught his eye. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, a vivid splash of fiery red and glimmering green. His little heart gave a thump, thump, thump against his ribs, a mixture of thrilling excitement and nervous curiosity. He paused, holding his breath, wanting to see more but also hesitant about this new, unknown sight. What could it possibly be? His tiny black eyes widened as he saw it clearly, a creature with pieces of raw red meat hanging from its head and neck. It was a magnificent barnyard cock, an enormous bird with shimmering feathers of red, green, blue, and gold. The cock walked about restlessly, its strong yellow legs tearing up the ground with its sharp claws. It looked so grand and fearsome, like a majestic, angry king of the barnyard. Suddenly, the barnyard cock puffed out his chest and let out a sound so loud, so piercing, it made Little Mouse jump sky high. It was a sound that seemed to shake the very ground beneath his tiny paws, a powerful cock-a-doodle-doo that echoed through the entire barnyard. To the terrified Little Mouse, stuck behind a small stone and no bigger than a grain of corn, this was the roar of a monstrous beast, ready to swallow him whole. His heart hammered like a drum, and he felt a cold shiver run down his spine, just as he prepared to run. Little Mouse spotted another creature nearby, completely different from the terrifying cock. This one had a very kind and gracious look, with smooth ginger fur that gleamed softly in the sunlight. He seemed to sit so elegantly, purring gently as he watched the world go by. Little Mouse felt an immediate sense of relief, thinking this must be a friendly face in this exciting, yet scary, new world. Perhaps not all big creatures were as frightening as the loud monster. The creature had thick, velvety ginger fur and a meek, gentle face that looked very modest, though its emerald green eyes were bright and shining. As it looked in the direction of the little mouse, it waved its fine, long tail, slowly and gracefully, almost like a friendly wave. Then it gave a soft, sweet smile, and Little Mouse felt his fears melt away like snowflakes in the sun. This pretty creature seemed so good and gentle. a perfect friend for a little explorer. Little Mouse was just sure the pretty creature, whose fur looked so delightfully soft, was about to speak to him, to invite him closer. But just at that moment, the giant, colorful monster, the barnyard cock, let out another screaming yell. "Cock-a-doodle-doo!" it shrieked, making the barnyard tremble once more. The sound was so unexpected and so terrifying that Little Mouse didn't hesitate for a second. He turned tail and ran for his life, his little legs a frantic blur. Faster than a speeding dart, Little Mouse dashed back home, his heart still thumping with the memory of the terrifying monster's roar. He burst into his cozy nest, clinging to his mother mouse, shaking from the adventure. His mother, a loving, soft gray mouse with wise brown eyes, hugged him tight, sensing his fright. "Oh, my little one," she cooed softly, "what has happened out there?" Catching his breath, Little Mouse began to pour out his story, every word tumbling out in a rush. "Oh, Mama, I saw two strange creatures. One was a fear. Some monster," he squeaked, his voice still trembling slightly with the memory. "It had raw red meat on its head and roared so loudly." He paused, then continued, "But the other, oh, Mama, the other was so kind and gentle, with velvet fur and a sweet smile." He looked at his mother, eager to share every detail of his incredible journey. Mother Mouse listened patiently, her wise brown eyes twinkling softly. She gently stroked her son's head with her paw, a loving gesture that always made him feel safe. She knew exactly what creatures he had encountered, as countless tales had passed down through generations of their family. A small, knowing smile played on her lips, ready to share some important wisdom. She waited for him to finish, allowing him to revel in his dramatic tale. "My son," Mother Mouse began softly, her voice filled with gentle understanding, "that gentle creature you saw, the one with velvety fur and bright shining eyes, was none other than the cat." Little Mouse gasped, his tiny jaw dropping in disbelief. "The cat?" he whispered, hardly believing his ears. His mother nodded sadly. "Yes, dear one. Under his kindly appearance, he bears a grudge against every one of us mice. He hunts us, you see," Mother Mouse continued, "and the terrifying monster, with the raw red meat and loud, piercing roar you described, was just a barnyard cock." Little Mouse blinked, his fear slowly melting away, replaced by a sheepish grin. "A cock?" he repeated, a little giggle escaping him. "Yes, my brave explorer," she chuckled, "a bird who would never harm you in the least, though he certainly enjoys a good loud crow." "As for the cat," Mother Mouse said, her voice growing a little more serious, "he eats us for his meals. So be thankful, my child, that you escaped with your life, and that the loud cry of the cock scared you away from a real danger." Little Mouse hugged his mother tightly, realizing just how lucky he had been. He hadn't known such pretty creatures could be so treacherous, or that loud ones could be so harmless. Mother Mouse gently stroked his head. "Remember this, my dear little one," she said, her voice full of wisdom. "As long as you live, never judge people, or any creature, solely by their looks, or the first impression they make. What truly matters lies beneath the surface, in their actions and their heart." Little Mouse nodded, absorbing every word of his mother's important lesson. He had learned so much on his very first adventure. From that day on, Little Mouse understood that true character isn't always seen at first glance. His first adventure had been a surprising mix of fear and wonder, teaching him a lesson more valuable than any treasure. He knew now that judging by appearances could lead to big mistakes, and that kindness and danger could wear many disguises. And so the little mouse grew a little wiser, carrying this precious lesson in his brave, tiny heart.
Ever dreamed of being the hero? Now you get to be the star. Your adventure starts at TalesMio. Visit talesmio.com now.